Welcome to episode 9 of the Nick Black Podcast. Now, before I continue, this is a big spoiler warning. If you have not seen the season finale of The Mandalorian, do not listen to this. Do not watch this, because I'm going to talk about what is probably the biggest spoiler in the history of all time. This is your final warning. If you haven't seen it, I'm recording this on Sunday, after. This is December 20th. If you haven't seen it by now, by the time this video is up, it's going to be at least tomorrow. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know what to tell you. What the hell are you doing? Go watch it. Okay, so Mandalorian season finale. Some pretty big shit happened. Now, before I talk about the big spoiler at hand, let's go back a little bit. Chapter 13, The Jedi. Mando takes Baby Yoda to the planet Corvus looking for Ahsoka Tano, hoping she can take Baby Yoda and train him in the ways of the Jedi. She says she cannot. She tells him if you take him to the planet Typhon and place him on a seeing stone, if he chooses to, he can reach out with the Force. And potentially, another Jedi will sense that and come looking for him. Which in fiction means that's exactly what's going to happen. In the next episode, chapter 14, The Tragedy, Mando places Baby Yoda on the seeing stone. He reaches out with the Force, but unfortunately is apprehended and taken on to Moff Gideon's light cruiser, leaving Mando and his ragtag crew to go and try to rescue him. In the season finale, they do that successfully. They infiltrate the light cruiser, take out everyone on board, apprehend Moff Gideon, save the child. But they are cornered on the bridge of the ship. Death troopers, a whole lot of them. I haven't done a count, but by my estimate, I'm going to say at least 24, if not more. But at the very least 24. Quite possibly 3-4 dozen. I'm not sure. It's a lot. But they're breaking down the door to the bridge. And these things are essentially Terminators. They look like the dude from Micronauts, but they act like Terminators. They even have guns that are similar to the rifles you see in the Terminator, right? I'm not sure how Disney's get away with this from a legal point of view, but it is what it is. Things are looking dire for our heroes. Cornered, outnumbered, and without any real hope. Then suddenly, an X-Wing flies by the window of the bridge. A single X-Wing. Now, when I saw this, I knew exactly who it was. From conversations I've had with people, not everyone figured it out that quickly, but I thought to myself, only one X-Wing. Who else would just show up in an X-Wing all by themselves to save the day? Who else could it be? I started getting excited. I was already loving this episode. Up until this point, this was already shaping up to be one of my favorite episodes. As it was, right? What would happen then made me feel like a kid on Christmas. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. The X-Wing docks. Baby Yoda's ears perk up, and a look of hope adorns his face, as if he knows who this is. Moff Gideon has a look of terror on his face, as if he knows who this is. Through the security cameras, you see a hooded figure making his way through the corridors of the light cruiser, effortlessly taking apart each Death Trooper he encounters. We eventually see, not through the security cameras, but in the room, a man in all black, wielding a very familiar lightsaber, a green lightsaber, in a black gloved hand. And believe it or not, I knew some people that still hadn't figured out who it was at this point. I'm not sure how it's possible, but quite literally with each moment, my excitement would grow. He makes his way to an elevator, gets off on the same floor as the bridge, actually in the hallway just outside of the bridge. And in a scene very reminiscent of Darth Vader's Rogue One scene, we see this Jedi effortlessly take apart every dark trooper in the room. I mean, effortlessly. In one of the quite possibly coolest displays of lightsaber action we have ever seen. And I'm talking about live action, movies, now TV shows. Because Ahsoka was actually pretty impressive on that one episode. Chapter 13, the Jedi. That was some cool shit. Actually, when I saw that Ahsoka Tano episode, my first thought was this was some of the coolest lightsaber shit we've ever seen. Yes, I'm comparing it to things like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, which is, I know everyone's standard for like the best, and it's great. I think this shit's up there, right? I mean, I hate the prequels, but the one thing the prequels did right was awesome lightsaber shit. But this figure, it's like nothing. Like it's we see Mando struggle with one Death Trooper earlier, and Mando's a badass. How much badass shit have you seen Mando do over the last 2 seasons, right? He barely makes it out alive after fighting one Death Trooper, and this hooded figure is just meh, chop, slice, stab, force. The last one, he just straight up uses the force to just crush it. Actually crush it. It's incredible. After the final Death Trooper is defeated, they open the doors, let this figure in. He removes his hood, to reveal that he is Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master. He's here to take the child, to train him in the ways of the Force. And I was so unbelievably excited in this moment that I did not care that they deep faked Mark Hamill's face onto a younger body. A lot of people were upset about that. I do not care. I much prefer this. See, no one cared when they did it in Rogue One, and I didn't like it in Rogue One. Like, yeah, Tarkin looked better than Leia did, but neither one of them looked good. I've even heard people say that the Rogue One deepfakes were better than what we saw here. And I highly disagree with it, because all I thought when I watched Rogue One was Tarkin looks like he came out of a PS4 video game, and Leia looks like she came out of a PS3 video game. Now, Luke in this moment looked like he came out of, Battlefront 2. But I'm okay with that, because I prefer that than having just someone that's a lookalike play Luke Skywalker. Because I'll compare it in Battlefront 2, Luke Skywalker's in the game, but it's not Mark Hamill voicing him. It's someone else who has a similar voice to Mark Hamill, but not similar enough. And I get it. We've all seen the image where Sebastian Stan's face has been put over Luke Skywalker's body, and it looks very similar. So similar, in fact, that the first time I saw it, I just thought it was Mark Hamill with 5 o'clock shadow. But every other time I've ever seen Sebastian Stan, I've never once thought, hey, he looks like Mark Hamill. So I know we all want our Sebastian Stan Luke Skywalker show, and ultimately I would be okay with that. I mean, they did it with Solo, right? And I actually really like Solo. My only complaint about Solo, ironically, is just that I just never bought Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I don't think he looks like Harrison Ford. There are actors out there that could have convincingly portrayed, Han Solo. I loved the movie, but I honestly kept forgetting that he was playing Han Solo. So every time they would call him Han, my instinct would just my subconscious would just say, "Hey, Han's this? Oh yeah, he's Han." Oops. So I'm okay with the deep fake. I'd prefer that to the alternative. But I would have been okay with the alternative as well. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I actually would have been happy with less than this. We didn't need we knew that obviously a Jedi was coming to get him. That was very, very apparent. It didn't need to be Luke Skywalker. I would have settled for Cal Kestis. A lot of fans were thinking it was going to be Ezra. I would have settled for that. I would have settled for pretty much anything else they would have given me. The fact that it was Luke Skywalker, it's like Disney gave us a Christmas present. That's how I feel anyway. I know not everyone agrees with that. I saw some asshole earlier complaining that it was Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker sucks. I'd rather it be Mace Windu. Really? I mean, I love Samuel L. Jackson, but does anyone actually like Mace Windu? Now, keep in mind, I asked that question. I'm still on season 3 of Clone Wars, and I've said it before. I'm not that crazy about Clone Wars. And I'm sorry, man, but Mace Windu doesn't do anything in the prequel movies that make me think, oh man, this character's awesome. I just don't get it, right? Is something else going to happen on Clone Wars in the episodes I haven't seen yet that makes Mace Windu cool? Because I don't even like Anakin and Obi-Wan as much in the Clone Wars as like a lot of other people do. Or more to the point, I don't really like the Clone Wars as much as a lot of other people do. I know people who swear by Clone Wars. I know people who say that Clone Wars is the greatest thing that's ever happened to Star Wars. I just don't get it. But my point being, I would have been totally happy with whoever it was that came to save the day and take Baby Yoda off to train him in the ways of the Jedi. The fact that it was Luke Skywalker. It's been days now. I saw this Thursday night at midnight. I still don't know how to come to terms with my excitement and pleasure. Because usually, I don't get to see something that is exactly what I wanted it to be. That is such a rare occurrence for me, right? I mean, even with things I love and enjoy, my expectations are almost never met, nor are they are very seldom satisfied. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, having seen this episode, I don't know if I've ever been so satisfied with anything that I've ever seen in my life. If you know me or you listen to this podcast, I will bank more on the you knowing me part because no one really listens to this podcast. But if you have been listening, you've heard me say before, my two favorite things in this world are Star Wars and Raiders football. Well, we're not talking about Raider football right now. We're talking about Star Wars, right? Star Wars is quite literally probably my most favorite thing in all of existence. It always has been, as far back as I can remember. And my Star Wars fandom revolves entirely around Luke Skywalker. And that's why I don't understand all the Luke Skywalker hate, right? But then again, I also don't understand the fandoms that became fans because of the prequels. Like, I get it. If you're, younger than my generation, obviously, you would have been exposed to the prequels at an early age. But I think it's a shame for the people who got exposed to the prequels before anything else, right? Because, I mean, hell, I was born a year after Return of the Jedi came out. By the time I started watching Star Wars, interest in it really died. I mean, there wasn't any merchandise anymore. Like, quite literally, you couldn't go to the store anymore when I started watching Star Wars and find any kind of Star Wars toys or merchandise. It just was non-existent. That didn't really start coming back until the Power of the Force in the mid-90s, right? So, like, I got into Star Wars with no merchandise. I mean, you had the Ewok TV movies, maybe. I was a baby. The Droids cartoon, the Ewoks cartoon, but again, by the time I started watching that, was already starting to fizzle out anyway. But all I had was the movies. And then once I started reading comic books, Dark Horse got the license to do the comic books, so then I had those and some of the Expanded Universe novels. And then, you know, coming towards the mid-90s, you started seeing a lot of video games pop up. But, I mean, I've been watching Star Wars literally for as far back as I can remember. My earliest memory of watching Star Wars isn't even watching it for the first time. My earliest memory is getting excited because I was going to watch Return of the Jedi again. I was about 3 years old, and we had rented it. But we had rented it because of my request. I had requested, can we rent Return of the Jedi again, right? Now, actually, as far as I can remember, I saw Return of the Jedi before I'd ever seen A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. And for a while, until I was maybe about 4, I'm not sure when, but I was convinced that Return of the Jedi was a standalone film. Now, before you criticize me for that, I was 3 years old. And at that point in time, sequels were usually numbered. Godfather Part 2, The Godfather Part 3, you know, so on and so forth. You know, Terminator 2, you know, these are things that I wasn't used to a sequel at that point in my life not having a number to it, right? Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rambo 2, Rambo 3. I think it's forgivable, right? And actually, to this day, I still hate it when sequels aren't numbered. Because usually, sequel titles are lame. I don't care what anyone says, Batman v Superman is definitely a sequel to Man of Steel. It is Man of Steel 2. In every single regard of what a sequel is, that is a sequel. But instead of calling it Man of Steel 2, it's got 2 titles. It's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Why does it have 2 titles? Either one would have sufficed. Now, I get it. Technically, Return of the Jedi's full name is Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. But who actually calls it that? Nobody ever says Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. No, we'd never, ever do that. So there are always exceptions to every rule, and I believe this applies here. But my point being, when you watch Return of the Jedi, Luke is the fucking man. I mean, he is just fucking awesome, right? It starts off, he strolls up to Jabba's palace in a black hooded cloak. Knocks on the door. He chokes the guards, like just so they come and kind of try to strong arm him. He just chokes them and just like meh, just walks on past them. Walks up to Jabba. Says, "I am Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master. I'm here to rescue my friends." They laugh at him. He smiles at them because he knows exactly what's going to happen. They don't. But he does. This is his plan. They throw him into the Rancor pit. Unarmed. He kills a Rancor with a rock. Okay, that didn't kill him. We're going to throw him in the Sarlacc pit. Take him out on some sail barges, out into the Dune Sea, to feed him to the Sarlacc pit where he is to digest for 1,000 years. Still, he's smiling because he knows exactly what's about to happen. They think they do, but they don't. He jumps off the plank, grabs a hold of the edge, does a flip up in the air, catches his lightsaber, kills every bad guy that needs to be killed, saves everyone who needs to be saved. And bam, he's the hero. Which I still think is one of the most badass things in all of Star Wars. Not everyone agrees. I don't really care. But see, he's the hero of Star Wars. I've had this conversation with other people where they tell me, no, Anakin is. Like, no, Anakin's not. Anakin was supposed to be. And then he falls to the dark side. He is not the hero. Does he save Luke in the end? Yeah. But Luke Skywalker is the hero of Star Wars. And that's why I had so many problems with The Last Jedi. I mean, we can talk all day about the other problems that movie had. You know, some unusual writing. You have that subplot with Finn and Rose where they go off to disable the tracking. And we follow them in their adventure, and they fail in their adventure. And it's like a whole, like at least 30 minutes that could have been cut out of the film. It was already a pretty long movie. It was like 2.5 hours long. You could have cut that down to just 2 hours, because if the end result was always going to be Finn and Rose failing in their mission, why did we have to follow them along there? And I know the argument is, oh, because that subplot really is there for Finn to see that there are bigger issues than just he's in love with Rey, and he needs a reason to really believe in the Resistance. But you see, you could do that in a variety of other ways. Like, it didn't have to be that subplot. We didn't have to follow along the entire time. And again, if the end result of their mission is failure, no matter what, why did we have to waste our time on that, right? You know, some questionable choices with, you know, we look at the fight scene between, you know, Rey and Kylo against the what were they called? The Snoke's guards, right? Was they Praetorian guards? Is that what they were called? Well, there were some really questionable decisions in the fight choreography of that scene. Poe Dameron's bizarre mutiny attempt, especially when considering that I can't remember Laura Dern's character's name, but in the end, she was right. And she did the right thing that potentially saved him. When Finn thinks that he's about to sacrifice himself to to prevent that cannon from blasting down the door, the only thing that's keeping the Resistance on Crate from being overtaken by the First Order, he's about to save the day at the moment he thinks that, because he has no reason to suspect that Luke Skywalker is going to do an astral projection or a force projection, whatever you want to call it, to distract Kylo Ren long enough for them all to get out to safety. And Rose knocks him completely off of his path because she's in love with him. And love is more important than anything. But he was about to potentially save the day. Like, just so many bizarre choices. And there's more. We can get into all that in a different episode. But what I hated the most about that movie is the complete and utter destruction of my favorite character in Star Wars, which is Luke Skywalker. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker is a man of such strong faith that he believes he can bring Anakin Skywalker back. He has no reason to believe that. Like, Vader has shown him nothing to suggest it's possible. In fact, the last time they met, they had fought, and Vader cut off his hand. Like, he has no reason to think there's still good inside of Vader. He just has such strong faith that he believes it's possible. He surrenders himself to Vader and the Emperor. Surrenders his life, surrenders his weapon. And after a fight where he starts to become overwhelmed with his own anger, he almost succumbs to the dark side himself, but catches himself. Throws down his weapon for a second time. Says, I will not become him. I will not be like Vader. I will never join the dark side of the Force. Do as you will. Palpatine starts to kill him. And it turns out Luke is right. Because in that moment, Vader stops being Vader and becomes Anakin once again. Picks up the Emperor, throws him down that shaft. We always assumed to his death, but now we're not sure because Rise of Skywalker wasn't quite clear. Did he actually die and get brought back from the death, or was he just hurt really bad and had just been in recovery this whole time? I don't know. They didn't really say. But again, Luke Skywalker was a man of such strong faith that even the threat of death couldn't break that. And in The Last Jedi, we find that at some point after Return of the Jedi, as he took on his nephew as his Padawan, his nephew who was very strong in the Force, Ben Solo, he sensed the pull to the dark side was too strong and feared that if he succumbed to the dark side of the Force, he would be too powerful, more powerful than Vader, and considered killing him. And then the movie does that weird thing where we see two perspectives where Luke had come to his senses and decided against it right as Ben woke up, and Ben's perspective that he woke up right before Luke decided to kill him. We don't know which of the two perspectives is true. I'm inclined to believe Luke, though, because it's Luke. But the movie doesn't give us a definitive answer. One of my many problems with the movie. But, point being, Ben attacks. They said killed half of his students and took off with the rest of them. Other things that have been introduced in the canon since have disputed that, but he takes off, destroys the temple. Luke Skywalker becomes a broken man, takes off to what he describes as the most unfindable place in the galaxy, cuts himself off from the Force entirely, and just wants to be left alone until he eventually dies. And that is not Luke Skywalker. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. Mark Hamill has said similar things. Other people whose knowledge and passion of Star Wars is rather strong have said similar things. And another thing I hate about that movie is, okay, so Luke wants to cut himself off from the Force and wants to go to the most unfindable place in the galaxy. He chooses the site of the first Jedi temple to do so. Nobody has a problem with that. Anyway, Luke comes back around by the end of the movie, saves the day, yada, yada, yada. However, that is not what I wanted to see from Luke Skywalker all these years later. Right? Like, I was, as a fan of the character, my favorite character in Star Wars, and again, the very reason I love Star Wars in the first place. And that's what they gave us. That's what they gave me. I felt betrayed. Because that's not the Luke Skywalker I knew and loved. And even in the Rise of Skywalker, he's in two scenes? That flashback scene. 3 scenes, sorry. The flashback scene, the scene where his Force Ghost talks to Rey, and then the very end, we see Luke and Leia together as Force Ghosts. I mean, doesn't it kind of suck that the final Star Wars movie barely featured Luke Skywalker? Well, my point being, a great deal of disappointment on my part. So, when I watched this episode of The Mandalorian, and I see Luke show up doing all these awesome Jedi things that I really wish I could have seen in any one of the 3 sequel movies, I could not have been happier. And like I said, I don't think I've ever been this satisfied by anything. Anything. And I mean, I'm very passionate about a lot of variety of different types of fiction. This might be the most satisfied I've ever been. And I just can't believe they did it. Like, I never thought in a million years this would happen. It was exactly what I wanted. It was everything that I've ever wanted, and I've gotten it. And it's Life doesn't work this way. You know, it's one of those things where I'm almost kind of in disbelief about it, because what do they always say? If something is too good to be true, it probably is. Well, this was definitely too good to be true. But it happened. And now I want more. They gave me a little taste, and now I want more. I mean, and as soon as possible, like, give me a Luke Skywalker show. I'll settle for a younger actor playing the part, or if they really just want to do more deep fake, whatever. I need more. I need more of this. I imagine we're going to get some more in the next season, because I can't imagine that Baby Yoda would just be completely removed from the show. That would just seem like a bad decision on their part. But we're definitely getting a third season, because, well, I guess by the time you're listening to this, this will have been at least 10 days in the past. But on December 11th, during Disney's Investor Day call, they announced, well, earlier in the day, they had said we're going to announce 10 new Star Wars projects. During the investor call, they only announced 9. And I'll read them off right now. The Mandalorian Season 3, which really should come to no surprise at all, because this is their biggest hit. The Cassian Andor series, which we knew about already because it had already been announced a while back, and my understanding is has been filming for some time. Rangers of the New Republic, which, if it doesn't feature the X-Wing pilots that we've already seen in this season of The Mandalorian, it definitely will be this. It's definitely taking place during the same time period as The Mandalorian. Everyone was excited to hear about the Ahsoka Tano spinoff, because, I mean, that's got to be most people's favorite episode, right? You know, like I said, before this episode aired, the Ahsoka Tano episode was by far my favorite episode of the series. I mean, easily. And this just seemed like the easiest decision for them to make. I mean, they got a fantastic actress in Rosario Dawson, who I still consider an A-list celebrity, even though she hasn't really been in a major movie in a while. But that's just me. Some other people might disagree with that, but I don't really care. I'm really excited about that show. We already knew about the Obi-Wan show. They announced that Hayden Christensen will be joining the series, which isn't as big of a deal for me. I mean, you guys already know I hate the prequels. I mean, I like Anakin in Clone Wars more than I did in the 3 prequel movies, but I'm still not that crazy about it. However, I'm not going to hate on it either. I mean, I think it would be weird if he is playing Darth Vader, because now Vader is scarred and sounds different, or he's supposed to. I don't know. I personally am hoping we get some flashback scenes, because... So I used to think Hayden Christensen was a bad actor, because I'd only seen him in the Star Wars prequels. Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Over the years, I have since seen him in other stuff, and I found he's not a bad actor. George Lucas is just a bad director. So I think it's cool that he gets another shot at giving a good Star Wars performance, because I think he deserves it. So I'm on board for this. The Bad Batch, which also was something that had been talked about for a while. It's a spin-off of the Clone Wars about a ragtag group of clone troopers. If you've seen Clone Wars, you know more about these guys than I do. But that sizzle reel they released, honestly, I thought that was cooler than anything I've seen in Clone Wars so far, so I'm on board for this. Star Wars Visions, which is described as an original series of animated short films, celebrates the Star Wars galaxy through the lens of the world's best Japanese anime creators, coming 2021, Disney+. Cool, Star Wars anime. A Lando series. A series about Lando Calrissian. Awesome. Now, they haven't said, or at least if they have, I haven't read, who will be playing Lando, whether it will be Donald Glover or Billy D. Williams. I don't really care. I'm on board, man. I love Lando Calrissian. He's actually one of my favorite characters to use in Battlefront 2. So, whichever Lando you give me, you've already won me over. Now, here's the project I'm most excited about. The Acolyte. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. Now, the High Republic era is a new event. I don't know what you want to call it, but they're launching it shortly here. I want to say in January. It's going to be predominantly a series of books, some comic books, and now a Disney Plus show. The High Republic era is supposed to be 200 years before the events of the films that we all know and love. And apparently, one of the books describes the events of the book in question has taken place 50 years before Phantom Menace. So this new initiative is going to give us stories that take place over the course of roughly 150 some odd years of Star Wars history. The Acolyte, I'm really excited about because as a grown up, I wasn't a terrible fan of the expanded universe, but there was some stuff I really liked, and mostly what I was really into was Dark Horse's series Tales of the Jedi. A big portion of those comic books focused on the Sith and Sith history. And a lot of that is not canon now, although something happened, or something was revealed the other day that shows that there was a scene in Solo that when you translate it from one of the, there's like a sign you translate it from whichever fictional Star Wars language it's written in. It translates into English, name dropping Exar Kun, who was a very important figure in the Tales of the Jedi series when it comes to the Sith and everything. But I just think Sith are fucking cool, and they don't do nearly enough with it. Like, there's just so much that can be done with this. So the fact that we're getting a show about a Sith acolyte at the end of the High Republic era that we still don't really know anything about. I mean, the books haven't even come out yet. We know a little bit, just what's been put out in like the the press stuff. So I'm totally stoked about this. And finally, well, not exactly, but the 9th project, director of Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins, is going to do a Rogue Squadron film. Rogue Squadron is a squadron of X-Wing pilots, and I think X-Wing shit is really cool. So I'm on board for this, especially since it's a movie. Like, we're not obviously getting a lot. Everything else I've said here before has been Disney Plus, Disney Plus, Disney Plus. This is going to be a film, which means, in spite of what they had said like a year ago, oh, no more Star Wars movies. Yes, more Star Wars movies. I didn't think that was actually going to be legit because I thought, why the hell did they stop doing Star Wars movies? Now, that's just 9. And like I said, earlier in the day, they had announced a 10th show. They announced 10 new Star Wars projects, but they only actually told us 9. If you make it past the credits of the season finale of The Mandalorian, you will see a scene where Boba Fett and Fennec walk into what used to be Jabba's palace. And we find it is now Bib Fortuna's palace. Bib Fortuna has gotten rather fat. Probably took on a lot of Jabba's habits. They kill him and everyone else there. Boba Fett sits on, I'm just going to call it the throne. I don't really know what else to call it. And we see a title card that says The Book of Boba Fett, coming December 2021, which is also supposed to be the release date of The Mandalorian Season 3, which has led a lot of people to assume that The Book of Boba Fett will be Mandalorian Season 3. I don't believe that it is. I mean, I actually, I read about the Boba Fett show a while ago, so I really don't think it's going to be Mandalorian Season 3. Now, they haven't made any official statements. However, one of the concept artists in The Mandalorian has said that no, they are 2 separate projects. Mandalorian Season 3 is happening, and they will start filming it pretty soon. Whereas they have been filming the Boba Fett show for some time now. But yeah, it was a heavy episode, and I didn't even really cover everything. I didn't even get into the stuff about the Darksaber, which I'm going to do that another time. How did you guys feel about the episode? How did you guys feel about the reveal that Luke Skywalker was the hero that came to save the day? How did you guys feel about the deep faking Mark Hamill's face onto a younger actor's body? Let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Nick_Black. That's at NICK_BLACK. Black? Yes, black like the color. All throughout my life, whenever people would ask me my name, and I would tell them, that's my actual name. Nick is my first name, Black is my surname. But people would ask me, like, Black? How's that spelled? I say BLACK. They go, really? Like the color? And I never really knew what other options were there. And it's a common name. This isn't a surprising thing. They would either say that, or they would assume that it was a nickname I gave myself, like a cool name. Oh man, what's your real name? No, that is my real name. Again, it's a common name. I don't get the confusion, but it is what it is. Anyway, let me know what you think. And thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.